All right, talk a little bit about the logic behind the target. Big thing about this was accessibility when I designed this. Don't need a big target. You don't need to order them in a pallet of 1,000 or anything like that. It's just an 8.5 by 11. It's most of what is in my range bag that I carry around, just because if I find one I like, I can print it off. They're easy to share, just simple PDF. So yeah, that was kind of that 8-inch circle fits on an 8.5 by 11 quite well. The other thing being accessibility and for most shooters to be able to get at. There's no magazine required that's going to exceed 10 rounds. So here in Canada, we have a restriction on our magazine capacities of 10 rounds for pistols. I know some of you guys in the States have laws there that are very similar to that. So I wanted everybody, even though they live in a restrictive state or country in our case, to have the ability to shoot this. It also doesn't require multiple targets. So you just need a lane at a range, provided they allow holsters or rapid fire. You should be good to go as long as it goes out to 25 meters. So just wanted the most amount of people in the most amount of ranges to be able to do this test. I kind of want everybody to be able to do that. The other thing too is you can use this as a really good practice tool. Just put it up if you want to just develop your 25 yard shooting. Just put the target up at 25. Work the times. You can use the proctor sheet for that. Any of the skills on there. It's just a good target that you can use to just work some stuff, provided you just pick the stages of the skill you want to develop. Okay. Working on some other stuff too, like I'm going to try and work on a skills one that's in the works right now. I won't get too much into that until I actually have a better idea of what I'm talking about. Was working on a carbine one for this as well. However, the band that we just had here up in Canada kind of kiboshed that plan. So we'll see where that's at with the fight that we've got going on with the government to get that overturned, but we'll see. But still cooking away at it. The design of the target. So 8-inch circle compared to competition targets, it's not exact like most alphas, but it's a comparable scoring area to some competition targets. I know like up here in Canada, we have IPSC. IPSC Diamond's quite a bit different than that, so not truly representative. If you want to explain it in terms of law enforcement, comparing to human anatomy, if you overlay that 8-inch circle on the upper thoracic, that would be an acceptable aiming or degree of accuracy. 2x2, again, since we're talking about human anatomy, if you overlay that kind of in that T-zone region, that would be also an acceptable degree of accuracy. But again, this is emulating a target at distance, or you have very limited exposure to what you're aiming at. Okay, so this is taking you from your 8-inch circle, where you just need some semblance of the sights or some degree of sight acquisition, where this is kind of requiring that, yeah, you need to make sure that your alignment's on point and everything's set up and get that flat press. So that's just requiring more out of your fundamentals. So let's talk about why we have to do two. Okay, Mike Pannone, CTT Solutions, he dropped his mech test a little while ago. Love it. That was a blast to shoot. Still working that one a lot. I kind of like how some of his stages had you shoot the skill twice. His is kind of a little different, where it's the overall combined time of both attempts is kind of what's going to dictate your performance in that stage. This is a little different. It's even if you rock this one up, if you goof your second attempt or vice versa, you're gonna fall down to that lowest level. Okay, so that's kind of the logic of that. I like the 2 reps per stage, but I kind of modified it a bit. So I just wanted to give kind of a hat tip to that test. That's kind of what caused that light bulb moment to go off for me. Okay. Let's go why we picked the stages. Okay, so stage one, I said it earlier, haven't really shot a pistol qualification or test that didn't ask you to do that. Pretty critical. If you're a competitive shooter, that's how you're starting your stage off. That's going to be the first step to success, is making sure you have your gun up on target as quickly as possible, depending if that's what the stage is calling for. Law enforcement or any other profession where you have to carry a pistol, or if you're a lawful concealed carry guy in the States, we don't have that up in here in Canada. This is when a bad situation turns to a super bad situation. This is where you're saying things are getting bad enough that I need to bring a firearm into this discussion. So first impressions are everything. So getting that gun up and making your first round hit, right? Slow hit is always going to beat a fast miss. So, but I don't really need to get into one round from the holster. I think we understand why that's a critical skill. Okay. When I was talking about the 2x2, I kind of explained why we did that. Again, it's one round from the holster, but we're just asking you to have your fundamentals honed and to really have that flat press, proper sight alignment, and put that round right in the 2x2. Right here, again, looks pretty generous. Once you're back at 7 meters, it gets pretty small, right? One round from compression. When I started law enforcement, a lot of it was low ready, low ready, low ready. We don't want to flag guys that, it's unsafe, muzzle direction. Yeah, that still always applies. When I took a course with Will Petty, Centrifuge Training as a VCQB course, once you're doing force on force around a car and you're fighting around those pillars and you're trying to get value on your opponent, once you bump into each other and your gun is not in compression or ready to be presented, you've lost. It's already over. Right? So when you're navigating terrain or environment or structure and it's safe to do so, your muzzle should be oriented in the direction you're moving. Okay. Never say never, never say always type of thing, right? We still have to be aware of our temple index, holster index, other forms of compression or carry, but don't point guns at people you don't want to point at. Point guns where you expect there a threat to be. Okay. That's kind of the concept of why we're going to use compression. Stage 4, we're applying the logic of stage 3 to the marksmanship application of stage 2. We're just asking you to have a longer set time, make your hit in a more critical area. Stage 5, one reload one. There's a lot of stuff that sucks in life, especially right now on May 31st. But I would probably put running out of ammunition while getting shot at somewhere's in the top 5, top 3. Again, with law enforcement, we're going to calls. We can't bring out our carbine or patrol rifle or whatever we're calling it nowadays to everything we go to. We may only have the pistol on our hip. That may be the only system we've got to fight with when we find ourselves there. So when that primary carbine goes down, we can bail on it, transition to a pistol, and fight with that. With a pistol, you've got to start working it and get that thing back online as quick as possible. The times are all established around the idea. I shoot with open top pouches on my duty belt and during concealment and stuff like that. Some of you guys might be stuck in kind of a draconian 18th century basket weave button stuff. That sucks. My department has the same policy. I kind of chose getting my gun back online faster and not dying over dress and deportment standards. That's a hill I'm willing to die on. You guys are gonna have to figure that out. Again, as I kind of talked about the competition holster, if I can kind of figure out what kind of time caveat I can add to that, i.e. if you are using those basket weave leather Uncle Mike stuff, you can reduce the time by 0.25 or whatever, but we're not there yet. I don't know what those times are going to look like. More guys shoot that. Maybe I'll get the information and we can change that. Fail to fire. Most common stoppage that you're going to kind of encounter, either magazine didn't seat, didn't chamber the round, forgot to chamber the round. From a law enforcement perspective, you see that a lot. The Deadman's gun guys don't take their guns out of the holster and they've been sitting there with nothing in the chamber. Or it's just that round didn't work, wasn't capable of firing. I know that there's all sorts of stoppages. Again, hopefully we can get to the point where we have a skills test. Not there yet, but that will examine more of the malfunctions. But right now, that's just a very common one to encounter. Okay. Don't need to reseat the magazine. Guys have talked a lot about pistol clearance malfunctions and carbine and the necessity to reseat the magazine. Doesn't matter. Whatever you do, you're a unique and special individual. So you decide how you want to clear that. Okay. 5 rounds from the dominant hand only. We talked about injured shooter a lot when we talk about dominant hand only shooting. That still applies. Absolutely it does. But there are other instances like if low light, if you have to use a handheld light, you have it in the temple index, neck index, search pattern like a modified FBI when you're working around a vehicle or cover. You're going to have that support hand occupied, right? We can't be completely dependent on a weapon mounted light because whatever we want to cast lumens into, we're also going to have to be aware that we're presenting a firearm in that direction. So that's a no-go. So you have to be adept at weapon mounted light manipulation as well. The other being is that hand may be occupied with a task, handling a suspect or handling some person or object or environment that is going to necessitate the use of our support hand. So that's why you got to get good at that. 6 rounds, the bill drill. I'm not going to talk about the bill drill because if you shoot pistol, you've heard of the bill drill. It's asking you to show up with everything. You have to have grip. You have to have trigger application. You have to have sight management. It's all got to show up to have good bill drills. Okay, so 6 rounds out of the holster. That's an old steadfast for any type of pistol shooter. So 5 rounds from the holster at 25 yards. So if you've listened to the guys, a lot of the primary, secondary network type contributors, Bill Blowers, Chuck Pressburg, Steve Fisher, all legendary dudes, talk about the necessity to shoot at 25 yards, shoot B8s at those distance. You have to be confident. Shooting at 25 meters with a pistol isn't long range. It's outside of the common. Again, I don't have the data and stats, so I don't like bullshit you guys if I have to. But that is not long distance, right? You look at common. I've heard Steve talk about that. Steve Fisher, Getty talk about that. If you go to a hotel and you look at the distance from one end of the hotel to the other, that's quite a bit of distance that you may be asked to engage with your pistol, right? So even inside of an environmental structure, think of a mall, Walmart, stuff like that. So that's why we have to be adept at shooting at those distances. We're not always going to have that 3-3-3 pistol shoot that is coming up, right? Or anything like that. So that's kind of the concept to the stages and how that was composed. The times. Level 4, if you consider yourself a competent shooter, my definition of that would basically be if you invest your own time, energy, and finances. Again, I am a full-time law enforcement instructor, and kind of the standard that is set by the department isn't always being the best. It's meeting a certain threshold of liability and legality. So, and sometimes the shooter performance reflects that. So would be like if I had a candidate on the line putting that stuff up, I'd be like, okay, that's pretty decent. Okay. So that's what level 4 is going to be established off. Level 3 and 2 are progressions off that. That's just developing up the line. But 3 and 2 is kind of what I would expect myself, the standard I would hold myself to if I was asked, you need to shoot this cold right now. Okay, well, this is where I expect myself to be. And if I'm below that, then probably going to have to spend a couple nights on the range to get my confidence and skill set back up. Okay, level 1 is hard. Okay. And I'll be right up front with you. I have not cleaned this test on all level 1 part times and accuracy yet. Okay. I've shoot a lot of these in level 1, and the level 1s are based off. If I put this target up and I say, I'm going to do my 1 reload 5-6 times in a row, and I get all warmed up and I'm not making mistakes, I will hit these level 1 par times. For me to shoot it all in a row on 1 attempt, not there yet. Okay. So, if that is an issue, saying, well, dude, you can't even shoot your own test at the max threshold, I don't know, don't shoot my test. That's just kind of what I see. And I'm also basing it, I don't want to be subjective to just my performance. I know that there's guys out there who are putting content out on social media that this is not going to be a difficult challenge for them. So I don't want it to be just my test. I want it to be the community type challenge, right? So that's what these times are based off. So again, that's a standard I know I can hit. I just need to show up and not make any mistakes on the range. Or I need to get good, the old term. Okay. So that's how the construction of the target went. Like, again, it's all accessibility, fundamental concepts and skills that need to be there, acceptable part times. The comp, there was also, I don't know if I talked about this already, hopefully. That was the first version of the target. You might have seen that on social media. I had a B8 in it. I just found myself, it cluttered the target, and if I want to shoot B8s, I'm going to put B8s up. I'm not going to deal with that. So that was one of the first things that got axed. And the accuracy thing too. Guys were hitting these level 4 part times, but very few people could actually get a 46 out of 46. So last revision, it had an accuracy caveat introduced into it. Cool. And then, yeah, there's a clean target online on the climbdevelopmentgroup.com. That's just if you don't want all the noise here. That's not going to be there. Just a cleaner target so you can focus on the big 8-inch dot. This is the Proctor sheet. One of the guys that it went out to, Average Ty, on Instagram, have not met the dude in person, but a spectacular human being. He was like, hey, I don't like running up to the target every stage and having to document my times on the target, 7 meters each time, 7 yards. So that, and he was also running a line of candidates. So to document all their times, kind of as a law enforcement instructor, that's kind of difficult to do. So having this sheet printed off, and you can document the name, each of their times as you work down the line, and it's just got a bigger part-time standards and stuff like that all presented. So that's up on the site there too. So that's kind of logic to that. Real quick, let's show some targets that I shot of this. So these I shot Friday. This is with a G17 compensated RMR. This one, Gen 4 G17, nothing too fancy. Slide mill by Black Box Customs in Calgary, Alberta. 3.25 Type 1 RMR. Has an agency arm barrel, agency arms compensator, syndicate trigger. Agency components are supplied by Blackleaf Industries here in Edmonton, Alberta. LG Magwell X300 Ultra. So, and there's a 4.5 minus connector in there. So that's what I'm working with. Kind of my take the restrictor plate off pistol. Shot this 46 out of 46. Didn't pull around, but my worst time was a level 3 time. Can't remember where that is, but like you'll see, like there's level 2, like there's a level 2 draw level. Well, that's a level 3 draw, so that's probably where I took it right there. But I've got like level 1 times in here as well, right? But my worst time is my overall time, so it doesn't matter how quick I was on the rest of the stages. The worst one's what's going to call the shots, regardless of my score being 100% accountability. Okay, so that one is, and then that one is with P10F with iron sights. By the way, if you haven't shot a CZ, depends if you're Canadian or US, I guess. P10, this thing is a sleeper. It's like 500 Canadian, and this gun, it slaps, man. I love it. The only modification of this one is an HBI Theta trigger. Other than that, it's the factory Trijican, I think there. I'm not sure, but it's kind of like the blacked out rears and tritium front pistol. So shot that. Just wanted to show that I can do it with iron sights, and it's not all about the RDS cult. Pulled 2, 1 round dipped at, that was my one, dominant hand only. I pulled one out there, -1. The other one up here, that was from my 25 meter shooting. Pulled one out there. This is a level 4, even though I only pulled 2 shots. That could get me into level 3, but I have a level 4 part-time, and that's that 6.36 here. Wasn't really confident the irons at 25 yards, so I really slowed down and got my hits. But yeah, kind of paid for it too. And I got kind of confident. I'm like, well, I can put the hammer down, and nope, pulled around up for it. So you can do it with irons as well. So both these I shot on Friday. They were cold. I shot the G17 first and then that. So anyways, just a little bit of insight about why I composed the test the way I did. A lot of it's going to change depending on the versions. Again, this is 1.2, but as this gets out, hoping to change things and kind of scale it up a little bit. All right.